Hello, my friend. Welcome to the Chronically Me podcast. I'm your host, Aimee Esther, and in today's episode, we are talking about how to live the life of your dream despite chronic illness. Did you know that was possible? Live your goals and your dreams and do things that you want to do while living chronically ill. Well, I'm here to talk with an expert on the subject, Daniela, who is an amazing mom of 5 kids and has done so many things in her life despite so many extra challenges of chronic pain and fatigue and other symptoms. If you live chronically ill like me and are looking for more purpose, control, and joy in your life, then you are in the right place. This is the podcast that challenges your thinking around chronic illness so you can live the most amazing life despite extra challenges. Are you ready? Let's go. Hi, welcome. We have Daniela here, and we're going to talk about how to live the life of your dreams despite chronic illness. So first, let's start out. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you? Let's get to know you a little bit. Anything you want to share?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here. So I am 48 years old. Before we get started, I am just going to say that I am from Brazil, in case you're wondering where my accent is from, because people just start,
Yeah.
asking where is it from, and they're not paying attention to what you're saying because they're trying to wonder, where you're from. So I'm from Brazil, and I moved to Holland when I was 16, and I met my husband there. So we've been married for over 30 years, together since I was 16. And we have 5 children. One was born in Holland, 2 were born in Ireland, and the last 2 were born in Canada, where I currently live.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah, so I've been a little bit all over the place.
Yeah. Where's your favorite place you've been that you've lived?
They are all special for different reasons. I really loved the Irish people. They have such a great sense of humor, and they have a really great sense of community as well. So I really appreciated that because I have a lot of young children at the time, and that was very special for me. It played a big role in, raising my children and all
Yeah.
that. But as my family grew, Canada became a better place to raise a large family simply because there's more space here, houses are bigger, you can have a bigger car, it's more affordable. Ireland being an island, it's a lot more expensive. Houses were small, so I always wanted to have a large family, so that wasn't very feasible in Ireland for us. But they all still live at home, so they range at the moment from the age of 16 to 26. They're roughly about 2 years apart. 10 years,
Wonderful.
the first and the last.
Awesome. And so share with me a little bit about your chronic illnesses, like what you've suffered from, how it started, or at least like a general idea of when your chronic illnesses started. I'd like to thank OMBRE Lab for sponsoring this episode. OMBRE Lab is an at-home gut test that will target your symptoms by learning which gut bacteria are causing your issues and help you identify foods that you should or shouldn't eat. If you're struggling with a health issue that you just can't figure out the cause, your gut could be to blame. When your body doesn't have enough good bacteria, bad bacteria can flourish. If you're having trouble focusing, maintaining a positive mood, or low energy, bloating, constipation, abdominal pain, struggling with maintaining a healthy weight, a weak immune system, or skin blemishes like acne or eczema, these could be signs of a gut bacteria imbalance. Did you know that 1 out of 5 Americans are struggling with gut health issues because of their diet? With too many refined sugars, artificial coloring, and hormone-filled fried foods, this is causing our guts to deteriorate. Thankfully, we can fix these issues with a better diet and the right probiotics. OMBRE Lab makes this process really simple by offering an at-home gut test so you can know the state of your gut health and what problems it may be causing. OMBRE Lab will analyze your results and recommend what types of foods you should be consuming more and what types of foods you should be consuming less. They also will use your results to develop a custom probiotic to help you treat these problems. These aren't one-size-fits-all probiotics that you will find at your local grocery store. These are personalized to you based on the results of the test. The test will ship straight to your door with specific collection instructions. Activate your kit, complete the test, and return it. Upon receiving your results, you will get a personalized food plan to help your healthy bacteria and gut microbiome, as well as personalized probiotics to heal your gut health with subscription. I found so much help with OMBRE Lab to show me what types of foods are harmful and good for my specific body, and to give me a personalized probiotic that helps with my situation. I have struggled with gut issues for years and years, but these probiotics are specific to me because my gut was tested to see what it actually needed. And now I'm actually seeing some improvements to my gut health by using a personalized probiotic made just for me. So if you're struggling with the health issues I mentioned and want to see if your gut health is causing the problem, visit tryombre.com/Aimee, AIMEE. This link offers $30 off your test kit so you can try this for yourself to see what is happening inside your gut. I'd like to thank OMBRE Lab again for sponsoring this, and let's get back to the episode.
So the first diagnosis that I got is fibromyalgia. I got this diagnosis, how long ago was that? I was 33, so I'm 47 now. But I had suffered since I was about 18. But a lot of the symptoms that I had, which was the chronic fatigue and the widespread pain and just generally like the headaches, the migraines, all got attributed to having a lot of small children. Oh, you're constantly pregnant, you're constantly breastfeeding, and you don't sleep through the night. Of course, you have sleeping problems and insomnia, and of course, you have headaches, you don't sleep, and of course, your back hurts, you're always carrying an infant. So it always got blamed on something, and I never got, I was never taken seriously. It always told me that's just, it's going to pass. You just got to wait for the season of your life to pass. It wasn't until my youngest was 3 years old and no longer nursing, and I had stopped having children, I wasn't pregnant anymore, that they started to take me seriously, because I was like, what is the excuse now? I have all those issues. If anything, they're getting worse. So what is going on here? And that's when they started to investigate a little bit more. And as you know, fibromyalgia is a disease of exclusion. So it's like when they can't tell you what you have, then they say you have fibromyalgia.
Right.
So that was my first diagnosis. And then most recently, about 3 years ago, I started with chronic migraines. After I had a concussion, I had a bad fall and had a concussion and developed migraines from it. And they were pretty intense for about 6 months, and then they started to get a little bit better. And then they came back, working full time, and it was very stressful at work and not sleeping, and the migraines came back. After they started to get a little bit better, they got worse again. And then I got COVID. And when I got COVID, then a whole new set of chronic illness set. I was then about a year after I actually I got COVID twice. The first time I got COVID, I developed tachycardia and fainting spells and shortness of breath and a lot of those symptoms. And I just thought it was stress, because it was such a stressful time to be living and to be working. And I worked in a hospital, and we were constantly masked up, with the N95s, and I couldn't breathe, and I would work 24 hours straight without a break. And I'm like, of course I'm fainting. I can't breathe. Right? But then after a year, it got pretty severe, and I started actually passing out in the hospital. Patients under my care. And I then had to, really look into what was going on. And given my history with fibromyalgia, with people not taking me seriously and all that, you kind of avoid trying to, know that there's something wrong with you, because you're so used to getting people telling you there's nothing wrong with you.
Definitely can relate to that.
And but yeah, my I had severe tachycardia, and
Mm,
they sent me to a cardiologist right away, which I was actually pretty surprised. I got an appointment within a week, and
wow.
I had to wear a Holter monitor for 2 weeks. And it was interesting that when I got to wear that Holter monitor, it was exactly the first week was my last week of vacation, and then the second week was my first week back to work. So I
Wow.
wanted to see if work played a huge role in that or not.
Mhm.
And surprisingly enough, it didn't. So
Mm,
that was there regardless of, it was harder to cope when I was working, but
yeah.
work wasn't causing it. So then I got diagnosed with an SVT, which is supraventricular tachycardia, and with POTS, which is the
Okay.
partial tachycardia or orthostatic tachycardia
Yeah.
syndrome.
Yeah,
Mouthful.
it is.
And then it didn't just stop there with the palpitations and the fainting and the shortness of breath. I also started to develop a lot of rashes and really
Mm.
bad allergies. And most recently, I started to go into anaphylaxis shock. So I
Oh,
actually
scary.
went 3 times into anaphylaxis, taken to the hospital by ambulance, epinephrine,
Wow.
through a drip. So I have also now been diagnosed with mast cell activation syndrome. And I have a lot of GI issues, and they're not
Mhm.
sure if I have IBS or if it's, the mast cells or what else is actually causing, digestive
Yeah.
issues. But I am constantly nauseated and have stomach pain and
Mhm.
diarrhea and all that. So it's a struggle in
Yeah.
that aspect. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's crazy that I just feel like so many of us who live chronically will have multiple things going on. They just like snowball into each other and create more and more issues. And it's so frustrating. It's like, can
It
I just
just
deal with one?
just illustrate how our systems are not isolated from each other,
Yeah, it's
and
so
that's how
true.
we treat it. We treat
Yeah.
it specialists. This neurologist is going to take care of your migraine. This cardiologist is going to take care of
Hmm.
your thoughts. And at the end of the day, they're all interconnected, and
Yeah.
the symptoms spill into other organs. So
Hmm.
I don't think it's until we see like a multidisciplinary approach to it and a more holistic approach that we're
Yeah.
going to see some real answers and solutions.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. So with all of that going on, how have you still been able to like live your life and do things you want to do? How have you been able to accept life as it is and still look for more treatment and still try to find answers and still, not give up, but accept where you are now?
I think that there is a huge misconception about acceptance.
Mm,
People think that once you accept something, you're giving up.
yeah.
That's it. This is your destiny, and this
Hmm.
becomes you. And I don't agree with that. I think acceptance is acknowledging that right now your life has changed, but your life is not over.
Hmm.
So that doesn't mean that you can't continue to look for solutions, that you can't continue to, look for symptoms relief or seeing doctors. But it also doesn't mean that you have to stop your life while you're searching.
Yeah.
Um, because you have to carry on. You have to live your life. And acknowledging that this is what's happening to you right now, and also
Hmm.
acknowledging your feelings about it, is the first step to doing something about it. I think there is a bit of a grieving component that happens once you sort of acknowledge what has happened to you. There is a bit of grieving to your past self, like who you used to be. You don't
Hmm.
identify with the person that you're seeing at the moment.
Yeah.
Also, when you think of the future and you think like all the things that you'd like to do, and you think like, I'm not going to be able to do this. So there is a bit of a grieving process, and with any grieving there are stages,
Yeah.
and acceptance is the last one. So
Hmm.
you need to first really identify the feelings and let yourself feel them so that then you can do something about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's how it started. Also because you don't really have a choice, do you?
Yeah. I know.
You know, you can kick, you can scream, you can do whatever you want. It's not
Hmm.
going to change your situation.
Yeah.
Right? So one of the things that I've learned through not just my chronic illnesses, but life in general, by raising 5 children and moving countries and all the
Hmm.
difficulties that brings, is that if you can't change a situation, you can always change your mindset. That is the
Mm.
only thing that you have 100% control over. And it's a game changer. It can completely change your reality. Um,
Yeah.
when you stop thinking yourself of a victim and more like, I am going to do all those things in spite of
Hmm.
all of that, then you become a warrior and not a
Yeah.
victim anymore.
I love that. I love that because I do feel like we get into our own heads and like, oh, my life is so hard. Like, I hate this and this and this about it. But what is interesting to realize, like, even if you didn't have chronic illness, you still have problems in your life. Like, something would come up, something would be hard. And I think there's accepting where we are now. I don't have to enjoy it. I don't have to be like happy it's here. I don't I still maybe want to try to find solutions for it, but I can still accept that this is where I am right now and accept that the future is going to hold whatever the future holds and the past happened and I can accept that as it is without feeling that extra frustration and stress that we kind of add on top of it when we're already, like you said, grieving some things that are hard to go through.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Happiness shouldn't be circumstantial. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
have to depend on this or that, right? We can always put conditions and say, oh, I'm going to be happy when this happens, or I'm going to be
Hmm.
happy when I feel better. I'm going to be happy when I'm out of school. I'm going to be happy when I'm
Yeah.
financially stable. Like you can put all those conditions. And then once you get there, you're going to find new ones.
Hmm.
Going to be something else that you need and that you're not happy for. So you can't make your happiness dependent on those things. You have to be able to be happy in spite of all those things. It's something that comes from within.
Yeah, exactly. And if you can find that happiness where you are now, then it doesn't matter what happens in the future. Like whatever you get to, you're going to end up being happier because you've figured out how to be happy in the situation you're in instead of what I used to do for so long, which is I call it wishing for Friday, which is what you explained. I'm always wishing for the next thing, like, oh, I'll be happy when it's Friday. I'll be happy when I'm done with school. I'll be happy when this happens. And then that thing happens, and I realize, like, no, I'm not actually happy
Yeah,
now because now I'm looking towards the next thing. What if we could
exactly.
be happy where we are now? I
Yeah.
love that. So what things have you accomplished even, with all your chronic illnesses? And how were you able to accomplish those despite these extra challenges?
Yeah. I like to think that my biggest accomplishment has been having my children,
Yeah.
because that's not an easy thing to have
No.
five.
I'm pregnant right now. We're
I
right in the
know,
middle.
right? It's not easy, but there's so many rewards, right?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if it was lucky for me that at the time that I had my children, I didn't have a diagnosis.
Yeah.
So I didn't have that excuse that, oh, I shouldn't have another one because I have
Mm.
this condition and it's just going to be so hard. And I just did it,
Yeah.
right? It's never questioned. I wanted to have a large family, and sure, my pregnancies they were very hard. I was very sick during the pregnancies. It was very hard when my kids were young. But that never made me change my mind. Like,
Hmm.
something being hard is not a barrier for me. It's not something
Mm.
that I'm like, oh, no, I'm not going to do that because it's hard.
Yeah.
It, I'm a very determined person, and I focus on the end outcome and the goal. I wanted a family. Do I have to
Yeah.
be pregnant to have a family?
Yeah.
Do I hate being pregnant? Yes, but that's the price you have to pay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if I had known then, would things have been differently? Definitely, I had a lot of opinions from people, from family.
Mm.
When are you gonna be done? When are you gonna have
Yeah.
stop children? It's so hard on yourself. You're gonna kill yourself. And
Hmm.
all the judgment. And but yeah, I think that would have been one of my biggest achievements, is to have the family that I wanted to have in spite of all the
Yeah.
circumstances.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think my second biggest achievement has been going back to school at age 37
Wow.
with 5 children while homeschooling my children.
Wow.
I decided that I wanted to become a midwife. My last
Mm,
2 children were born in the hands of midwives, and I really had fallen in love with the profession, and I wanted to become a midwife. And I didn't even have a high school diploma because I had
mm,
left Brazil when I was 15 to 16, moved to Holland, didn't speak the language there, had trouble getting into their public school system, and ended up getting together with my husband very shortly after. And there was a lot of other things that had happened in my life as well. There was some abuse, and there was a leaving
mm.
away from home, and it was a very turbulent time of my
Yeah.
life. And so I dropped out of high school and hadn't even finished high school. And it was never needed because I was in a stable relationship. I was a stay-at-home mom. I was being supported
Mhm.
by my husband. But when it came to that point where I had a dream and I wanted to become a midwife, I was like, okay, what do I need to do? And I literally went back to high school at age 37,
Wow.
finished chemistry in the same class as my son did. We took
Wow.
together and we
That's
finished with
awesome.
exactly the same grade. So that was fun. That was really fun. So went back. I did 2 years of high school, graduated high school, applied to the university, got in, did 4 years of a bachelor's of health science and midwifery, graduated, and started working. Now, those were not easy times
Yeah.
because I was already diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and it was hard to wear all the hats, right?
Yeah.
For a healthy person, it already is a chaotic life, being in school
Mhm.
full time, having 5 children, running a home. And it was a lot. And I had a lot of flares, and I had a lot of um, times where I thought, yeah, I don't know if I can do this. And
Yeah.
I nearly gave up. And there was a lot of, I'm not quite sure what the word is, but I wasn't very supported in the program. Like,
Mm.
university is all about like, oh, if you need accommodations, you can have accommodations. But the preceptors didn't see it that way,
Yeah.
because I had a preceptor come to me once, and I had been awake for 24 hours. I had not slept in 24 hours. I had not
Wow.
eaten a meal in 24 hours. And we had finished with this birth, and we had clinic, a full day of clinic. And in my head, I'm thinking, they're going to cancel that clinic, or they're going to get another midwife to do that clinic, because
Mhm.
we have just been out for 24 hours. We just delivered a baby. And
Yeah.
she's like, no, see you in clinic. And I'm like, wait, what? No, that can't be. Like, I can't. Like, I can't do
Yeah.
this. I can't go and do clinic. And so she sat me down, and she's like, you need to really reevaluate. I don't think you're suitable to be being a midwife.
Mm.
All the times that I was in a lot of pain and I needed to take a painkiller, or I needed like some time off because I had a migraine that I couldn't get under control. There was this judgment, and there was this, you're not suited for this. You can't do this profession.
Mhm.
This profession are for hardcore people. They're not for you. And I was very determined to finish the program, and I did. There were a lot of tears dropped. There were a lot of
Wow.
crying in my bathroom floor, and a lot of support from my partner. Like, I would not have been able to finish that without his support. Not only support hands-on in a sense of like
Mhm.
taking over the house, like cooking meals, bringing me meals in beds, and doing the laundry, and doing the grocery shopping and everything, but also picking me up when I was so low, and when I was
Yeah.
ready to give it all up, he was there. So I think that was a huge achievement as well. And
Yeah.
I did end up getting a job in the clinic of my dreams, where I had always dreamed working. Interesting enough, that was the very same clinic with the preceptor that said I wasn't cut for.
Mm.
So they ended up hiring me. But after I had my concussion, things got really out of control with the migraines, and then I had
Mm-hmm.
to take a leave of absence. So that was my first leave of absence. I went on medical leave or disability for about a year, and then got better, recovered, went back to work, and then got COVID and got sick again.
Mm-hmm.
I think I worked about a year and then got sick and then worked for another year in that setting of being very unwell and
Yeah.
struggling to get through. And I'm currently back in um, medical leave again
Okay.
because of all the
Yeah.
labels and diagnosis.
Well, that's amazing how much you've been able to accomplish. It's so inspiring. And I love that you shared it was a struggle, because a lot of times we hear these stories of like, oh yeah, I had this, I had fibromyalgia, but I was able to still accomplish all these things. And you hear that small piece of it and you miss all the in betweens, right? And there's obviously tons in between your story we didn't get to hear today. But just knowing that you did it, and it was hard, and maybe you have to take some breaks, and maybe you're not able to work, you know, every single day like many people, but look at how much you've been able to accomplish despite having all of these extra challenges, and on top of that having other people not believe in you, right? And that just goes to show it's all about your own mindset, right? If you believe in you, then it doesn't matter who doesn't believe in you. Like you're going to be able to achieve it. It might be different than you think it will be, than you anticipate it will be, than other people are doing it, but that doesn't mean you can't accomplish the things that you want to. Like I genuinely believe that whatever it is that you want to do, you can find a way to do it. You can't do everything, right? You can't do it the way that everybody else does it, but I do think you can find a way to make it possible. And I think that's amazing that you've done that.
And I think that brings to the question of what is success,
Yeah.
right? Because who determines this?
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's not something that can be decided by somebody else. It is so different for every person. And to me, success is not a goal, it's not the end, it's the process.
Oh, I
It's
love that.
getting up every day and showing up, and there are low days and there are high days. And I
Yeah.
consider myself a very positive person, a very determined person, but and a lot of people acknowledge that, and a lot of people go like, oh, you're so strong, look at all
Mm-hmm.
you've done, you're such an inspiration. But I have low days as well. I have days that I'm at the
Mm-hmm.
bottom of the well,
Yeah.
and sometimes I feel that I almost need to allow myself to get this low to push myself back up,
Yeah.
because you get there and it's so lonely and it's so dark that you don't want to be there.
Yeah.
So you're like, I'm getting out of here. I am not staying here.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have
Yeah.
to experience that low in order to have the determination and to have the drive to get out of it,
I
right?
totally agree. Yeah.
I'm proud of everything that I've done, and a
Yeah.
lot of people feel shame and they feel, um, yeah, I'm not sure the word I'm looking for, but they just feel they pity themselves, they make themselves the victim. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it that way. I see
Yeah.
much the opposite. I have a lot of pride that I've done all of those things in spite of all the difficulties that I had. And, you have to be creative, you have to do it in different ways, and you may have to take breaks and
Mm-hmm.
may not do it exactly on the timeline that people do it. And I've never done anything in a regular timeline.
Yeah.
Go to high school, then they go to university,
Mm-hmm.
then they get married, then they have children. Then I did everything the other way around. I got married at
Yeah.
the age of 16. I had dropped out of high school. I actually had a baby before I got married. Then I got married.
Mm.
Then I went back to school, and then
Yeah.
I've never done anything in anybody's
Mhm.
timeline. I did it on my own timeline. What works for me.
Yeah. I love that. And I've had so many clients who have come to me and said like, "Oh, this isn't how a college student should be. Like I should be able to live this sort of life as a college student or as a mom or as a high school student, or whatever stage you're in." We all think like there's this manual that we have for how this is how a wife should be. This is how um a mom should be. And we come to our lives with these like manuals that people tell us, like, oh, this is a good wife, this is a good college student. And we realize there's nobody has the same manual. Like, we don't have to fit into that mold. We don't have to, because the truth is most people don't. Like, it seems like they do because that's what, we see on the outside, is we only see, the things on social media and the very like surface level of people's lives. But then you get to know them and nobody's done it right. There's no right way to do it right. And when we realize that, then it's not so heavy when you have this chronic illness and you need to do things differently. And it's okay, because sometimes maybe different is better. Like, look at the way your life has turned out and how amazing the things that you've gone through, and the pattern that you set up for your life has made your life successful and amazing, because you get to define your own success, right?
And also, I think that, you don't have to keep trying something or doing something once it no longer serves you.
Yeah.
So you were doing something and it kind of served its purpose, and this is no longer working for you. To not be afraid to change and move on.
Yeah.
Um, so for me, what this looked like for me now is, being a midwife is not quite working out.
Mm,
I can't do the long hours. I
yeah.
can't be called 24/7 for 7 days straight. Work 24 hours straight and not have meals, and the level of stress and the emergencies, and like having brain fogs and things like that. Like that doesn't work. So
Mm,
I had to come up with something else. I could have just sat and cried and thought, I went back to school. I did high school again, and I did 4 years of university, and I had a lot of debt, and was all this time and sweat and money I
mhm.
went into this dream to then work for maybe like 3, 4 years, and this is not working for me now. A lot
Yeah.
of people ask me, like, if you could go back, could you have done things differently? No, I wouldn't,
Mm,
because this is part of who I am today. All the experiences that I went through shaped me who I am today. And I think I grew a lot, and I am a better person than I was 4 years ago or 5 years ago. And my experiences is what shaped that. So I would not change that. But maybe it's time to move on. So instead of, like, again, playing the victim, I'm like, what can I do? And I decided, much like you, to take your reality and your experiences of living with chronic illness and try to turn that into something good.
yeah.
Um, and like I said, you inspired me a lot, and I had always been fascinated by YouTube. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to start a YouTube channel as well. And
Mhm.
there was this huge fear of, what if I fail? What if I fail in front of
Mhm.
everybody? And all those kind of doubts and that little voice inside your head. But to me, not trying something, that's already fail by default.
I
You
love
already
that.
failed there,
Yeah.
right? If you try, at least you have a chance. If you
Yeah.
don't try, you have already failed.
And
So
I think so many people do that, right? There, it's like, oh, it's easier to just not do the thing than to try it and fail at it. But like, when I started my YouTube channel, like, I didn't even know how to edit a video. My first video, I just said, I'm doing in one clip because I don't know how to edit. I don't even know how to cut like one word out of what I'm
look
saying.
at you now, right?
Yeah.
Like, you learn.
Yeah, and then I just learned by failing. Like, I learned by making crappy videos, and I still make crappy videos sometimes. And I'm like, okay, well, I learned something. I'm not going to do that again.
Right? It's about the message.
Yeah.
We're not big film productions, right? We're
Hmm.
here to convey a message, to be support to other people.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, you learn a few things. You learn how to edit and how to,
Yeah.
put a video up and all that, the minimum, but we don't have to be those experts in order to make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I love that.
yeah, and then again, like, I'm just starting, like, I don't have a huge following or anything,
Hmm.
but to me, this is already success because I did it. You
Yeah.
know, I'm out there. I have videos. I have people that will comment and say, "Wow, you made a difference." And that,
Hmm.
even if just that one person saw that and made a difference for that person, was already worth it.
Yeah. That's so good. So I will link your YouTube channel down below. You'll have to
Yeah, yeah, thank
email it to me, and I'll put it in the
you.
comments of the YouTube video version of this podcast. And everyone should go subscribe. Mm,
But I think the message from this is that you should not be afraid to change
yeah.
because we are constantly changing.
Yeah.
And my health took a turn to the worse, and it's hard even with being less self-employed, and
Mhm.
my own schedule, and I can film when I want. There's all those things that my brain wants to do,
Yeah.
and my body's not always on par with that, like it has
Yeah.
its own mind. And I think the other thing that I learned with time is to be patient,
Yeah.
to really be patient, and
Yeah.
not again wait like, oh, I can do all those things once this flare passes. What else can I do during this?
Mhm.
Maybe I'll just sit and do research in bed all day, or
Yeah.
like something else. Like you just got to think outside the box and take yourself out of that victim mentality
Yeah.
and all the negatives, and try to appreciate what you can do. And it's funny how going through hardship really makes you more empathetic and makes
Mhm.
you more kind to humanity and makes you more appreciative of the little things. Like, even because I have some days that I'm so unwell that I cannot even get out of bed,
Yeah.
when I am well and I have to do the dishes, and you go like, oh, what's all those dishes? I stop and I go like, I can actually do the dishes. Yesterday I couldn't.
Mhm.
So just look with a new light, right? And be appreciative that you actually have working hands, and that today you can stand up without fainting, and that you can actually do the dishes.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And on the hard days, remember that you have had days where you've done a lot. And look how
Uh,
much you've done on that hard day. Even if it's you're in bed all day, like I'm just in bed all day and when my kids are just watching a movie or something, it's like, well, hey, I kept my kids fed and happy and they're good. And look at how much I've done even on the worst of the worst days.
that's when I get my best ideas, is when I'm
Yeah.
sitting in bed, because you're not physically active, so your brain is just doing.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. So if you could leave us with any last advice for how we can live, any dream we have or goals we want to accomplish, what is any last advice you have for us?
Um, I think something that I have been battling with myself lately is that there's always somebody else worse that you
Mm,
compare yourself to, right? Like downplaying your symptoms because there's somebody else who's worse than you are.
yeah.
And so, not validating your own pain and your own struggles because there is somebody else that's going through worse. And I think that that's a mistake, because, sure, they may have it harder than you, but that doesn't mean you have it easy. It doesn't make your
Mm,
pain any less. So, I think that's important to acknowledge, to, be kind to yourself.
your feelings are valid.
Your feelings are valid, and if you take to step down like I needed
Yeah.
to, from my job, and there were a lot of concerns, like financially, like we have a large family, it was a big
Mm-hmm.
income, right? And
Yeah.
kind of have all those worries. But I, at my age now, like having lived through so many difficult times and all that, I have trust.
Yeah.
Have trust that things are going to go work out. As long as you're putting in the work and you have the willingness to
Mm-hmm.
do the work when you can, and be on the watch out for different possibilities, things are going to work out. Of course, you just sit there and it's like, yeah, I'm not going to do anything, and I just want everything to just come to my doorstep,
Yeah.
right? You gotta do
Yeah.
your part. But I think having faith and having trust in God or an
Mm-hmm.
entity or whatever it is that that you believe in, um, it's important.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think just believing, like if you just believe, things are going to get better or things are going to work out, you just believe that, then you do take the steps to
And that
let
may
help that
not
happen.
look like you thought you would be.
Yeah.
Like you may have had an idea of what workout,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
it doesn't always go that way. It
Yeah.
goes the way that it's supposed to go.
Hmm.
Not always how we thought it would go.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that is very helpful as well is to have a sense of humor.
Yeah, I love that.
It's yeah, just, laugh about it. And
Yeah.
at the time, sometimes when things happen, you may not think it's so funny, but believe me, it will be funny one day.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And if you want any more information from Daniela, we will leave that in uh, the description of the YouTube video or in the podcast show notes so you can get more information from her. But thank you so much for being here and sharing your story. And I think you are such an inspiration to so many people for how much you do on a day-to-day basis and how much you've accomplished so far in your life. And I'm excited to see where you go.
Yeah, so are you. But I think deep down, it all comes to your state of mind and your attitude. That is a
Yeah,
game changer. Like if you work
exactly.
with your brain, you can change everything.
Yeah, I totally agree. When I was only focused on my physical health, it was like my every day I'd get more and more depressed. Every day I'd get more and more
Yeah.
upset and frustrated. And when I started realizing, like, I got to work on my mental health first, my brain's got to come first, and then I'll be able to take the right steps for my
And
physical
sometimes
health.
it's hard to do it on your own, right? Because
Yeah.
you do life coaching,
Yeah.
correct? Yeah. And I think sometimes, like, especially when you're in that stages of grieving and you're kind of, that step into acceptance, it can be so helpful to have somebody to guide you and to help you see
Hmm.
things in new light, because it's so easy to fall into that vicious cycle of blame and
Hmm.
self-pity. And that sometimes you kind of just need to break that pattern and get a little bit of guidance and a little bit of help from outside to just help you go in the right direction.
Hey, friend, do you find value in this podcast but want to take it to the next level? Work with me one on one or check out Chronically Me, the course and workbook. This course takes the things you are learning on the podcast and helps you apply them directly to your life. This course dives deeper into changing your thinking, teaching you how the brain works and how to maximize your life with chronic illness. I designed this course as a companion to the podcast. The podcast gives specific, real world examples, and the course helps you put them into action. If you want personalized one-on-one help from me, I got you. I also offer individual coaching programs where we can talk about the problems you are facing. I'll help you manage your brain and find solutions to nearly every problem that you have. We will walk hand in hand on this journey together. Check the show notes or the video description on YouTube for more information on getting extra help from me. Talk to you soon.